basis, whether it be after our salah or throughout the day, which is really, really important for all of us to put some effort in, not only in reciting them, but also familiarizing ourselves with the importance of dua. We've covered the topic of dua in many programs before, and we've said that according to one hadith, that dua is mukhul ibadah, that dua is the central brain of worship. And therefore, everything that we do is somehow related to our connection with God. And the best form of connecting and relating to God is using those beautiful words that have been given to us by Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. When you look at the heritage that you have as a Shi'i Muslim, you will never be able to see anything similar to this in any other madhab or any other religion. The number and the level of du'as, the number of du'as and the depth in the wordings of these du'as cannot be seen anywhere else outside of A'immatu Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And that's why one of the important things that you need to do during the holy month of Ramadan is engage in the practice of dua. You know that it's really important to recite dua al-iftitah, but dua al-iftitah is only one of a few duas that you should be reciting daily. Dua al-sahar or dua al-baha, which is really important. We spoke about that. Dua Abi Hamza Thumali, we spoke about that last week as well. And of course the similar small du'as that are really recommended to recite. Most importantly is when it does come to your overall direction in the holy month of Ramadan, you need to make sure that you are gaining something, that you are benefiting somehow, that you are gaining maximum benefit from the holy month of Ramadan. The hadith says, كَم مِّن صَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِن صِيَامِهِ إِلَّا الْجُوعِ وَالظَّمَأِ. How many times do you see people who are fasting and they're not getting nothing from their fasting other than being hungry and thirsty? Which is exactly why the hadith says that your fasting day should be nowhere similar to your non-fasting day. How are you able to do this if you're not putting enough effort in your overall direction in your life as far as your siyam and your a'mal are concerned? Which is why I chose for this, inshallah, 10 nights to speak about what things we need to adopt and what things we need to get rid of. There are many things that we need to pick up on. There are also many things that we need to remove from ourselves. This, in our religion, is called akhlaq. And akhlaq basically means to have a balanced life by removing two sides of extremes. By you making sure that you have moderation in everything that you do. Which is exactly why you are going to have virtues and you are going to have vices. You are going to have fada'il and you are going to have radha'il. A fadila is something that you need to pick up on, something that you need to adopt. Wa alaikum salam. And radhila is something that you need to avoid and remove from yourself. So we're going to, inshallah, be discussing 5 fadilas and then 5 radhilas. 5 fadilas and then 5 radhilas. Hopefully, inshallah, through looking at the words of Allah and looking at the words of our ma'sumeen, this will be a shock treatment for all of us to make us realize that we really need to make changes in our lives should we want to get somewhere in this dunya. Always remember that this dunya, this little short life of ours, is not going to carry any value unless we're taking something with us to the hereafter. Al-dunya mazra'atul akhirah. Here we sow, and it is in al-akhirah where we reap the rewards of what it is that we are doing. Just for argument's sake, or just to make it clear in case there are people who do not know what akhlaq is. Akhlaq is the plural for khuluq, and khuluq basically means conduct, overall demeanor and behavior, and how it is that you are. The English word that is usually used is morality, and of course that comes from the ancient Latin word. And the definition, a very simple definition, is that akhlaq is the state of the nafs that engages this nafs into doing things without thinking and without hesitation, which basically means it becomes second nature for you. That it's not just a small habit that you pick up on. No, it's something firmly rooted in your conduct and how you are. That's what akhlaq is. Or else, otherwise, if it's something that, comes and goes, that's not really going to be referred to as akhlaq. Yes, it's a good thing when it's there, but it's even worse when it's no longer there anymore. What value is there in something if you are inconsistent in what it is that you are doing? As for explaining fadilah and radila, obviously I've already explained it, but here this is pretty much the simple explanation what a virtue means and what a vice means. You can also use the word ma'roof, good, and opposite to that is of course munkar and bad. Fadila, virtue or good or righteous, and of course radila, something that is bad, something that is sinful, something that is self-destructive and corruptive. Why is it that in our religion God commands us to do things and commands us to refrain from things? Ultimately, the objective is for us to make sure that we follow things that God has put in it a benefit, and to stay away from things that God knows that it is detrimental and damaging. Which is exactly why in our religion we believe that everything is based on masalih and mafasid, things that are of benefit and things that are detrimental. Sometimes we know what the maslaha is. Sometimes we don't know what the maslaha is. Sometimes you know that by you obeying your parents, this is going to give you success and tawfiq in life. What happens if you've got, for example, a bad parent, a negligent parent? Does this mean that you no longer need to submit to the authority of your parent? Absolutely not. What is the maslaha in you obeying a parent that is bad? There must be a maslaha, but we probably don't know it. And there's, of course, the mafasid and those things that are detrimental and damaging as well, and us avoiding from it, whether we understand it or whether we don't understand it. Whether for you it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. You still need to submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why the famous ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, he, in one of his books, speaks about this medium, this moderation, this i'tidal that needs to happen between two extremes. If you are on one side a jaban, a coward, that's not good. And the other extreme is tahawur, is being, careless. That's also not good. So neither should you be a coward, a jaban, nor should you be a mutahawwir person. You should be a shuja' person, a courageous person. And that's why courage here is the middle between two sides, and that's what akhlaq is all about. So akhlaq does not mean being good. Akhlaq means to adopt moderation in avoiding two sides of extremes. Which is why in akhlaq it discusses the virtue and it also discusses the vice. The reason why we need to say this is sometimes if you are doing something that you think is really, really important and you haven't left your moderation, someone can't say to you, oh, that's not good akhlaq, or that's not this, because within your understanding and how you have dealt with this particular situation, probably that's the duty that you have, as long as you are answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And of course, all of these other examples here, as far as deficiency, which is one extreme, and excess, which is the other extreme. As for the first fadila that we need to adopt is the fadila of sidq, of truthfulness, of being truthful. You all know, when it comes to the Holy Prophet, before the mission of Islam, everyone in Mecca knew him as as-sadiqul ameen, the truthful and the trustworthy. You all know that we all hate people who can't be trusted, who are never truthful or honest in their statements. You all know that there are so many benefits to being truthful, and there's no benefit whatsoever in being a liar and lying. As easy as this concept may be, we really, really, really struggle. As easy as being truthful may be, in many cases we're caught off guard and sometimes we resort to telling a lie. We know, I'm not going to talk about lying because that is one of the radhilas that one of the vices that we're going to be talking about. But with the fadila of as-sidq, we know that even when it comes to the most simple of things, you're always going to be recognized by this particular characteristic and quality. The hadith says that you don't test someone by how much they pray and how much they fast. You test them by sidqul hadith wa ada'ul amana, as the hadith says. How truthful are you in your statements, and whether or not you are observant of amana that is entrusted to you. Speaking of amana, sometimes amana isn't me giving you $50 and saying, take care of this for a month and I'll get it off you after a month. No, sometimes it's me having a personal, private conversation with you. And I'm not saying, and I did not say to you, hey, by the way, this is secret, it's amana, keep it between me and you. No, I didn't say it. By default, that's the way that you need to be treating it. You need to treat a private conversation with the highest level of amana. That's why the hadith says, al-majalisu bil-amanat. That when you are engaging in a conversation in a closed off, for example, group, obviously you don't want that to be spread and spoken about in public. Otherwise you would have said it in public. Amana is very much connected with sidq and being truthful and being honest. Because obviously when a person is honest and truthful, they're always going to make sure that they stay to their word, even if it damages them, even if it affects them. How many of us, unfortunately, are not truthful to a word that we say, a promise that we make? I'll meet you at 10 p.m., at 10 a.m., right? You end up asking them, hey, by the way, do you mean 10 a.m. Muslim time or Aussie time? Isn't that insulting? Really? Isn't that really, really insulting? That Muslim time means without no ihtiram for waqt, for time, whereas, Western time, respect time. It's exactly the opposite in Islam. It says, al-mu'minu idha wa'ada wafa. A mu'min, a believer, if you give your word, you keep your words, you fulfill your promise that you make, whatever it may be. Not using the excuse of traffic or this or that or this or that. No. How about in the case of an appointment, or in the case of you not knowing the circumstances, whatever it may be, always make sure that you stick to your words. One of the signs of a munafiq is that if they give you their word, they break it. The sign of a munafiq is they never keep their word. They never keep their promise. How many people do you know that are like that? That are never on time, never keep their word, never fulfill their promise. And it happens once, it happened twice, and then for them it's zalata, it's normal. That sifa of nifaq being there. Which is exactly why, when it does come to, as I've said, I'm not going to talk about lying, but when it comes to lying, there are some people who are compulsive liars. Yani mubida, they have no control over the chidhib that they make. And they are articulate in their lying as well. I know someone who is a compulsive liar. And then when you call them up and you say, hey, look, you just did a big chidhbah. Look at this big lie that you made. Oh yeah, that's right. Would any change happen? No, because they have become, unfortunately, so accustomed to it. Again, that's what akhlaq is all about. Akhlaq is you adopting a quality that cannot be removed from you. So much so that you become recognized with this virtue. That people know you through you being a truthful, honest person. And what kind of beautiful description is that when you want to describe someone? Yeah, he's an honest person. He's a truthful person. That's a beautiful description, isn't it? Right? Which is exactly why when it comes to the statements from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. When it comes to Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, it says, As-sidqu yahdi ila al-birr. That truthfulness will lead you towards righteousness. Wal-birru yahdi ila al-jannah. And righteousness will take you, will guide you towards heaven. And then you have the opposite. Al-kidhbu yahdi ila al-fujur. That lying leads you to corruption, and fujur and corruption leads you, debauchery, corruption, evilness leads you to hellfire, leads you to nar. Look at this hadith in where it says, وَإِنَّ الْمَرْءَ لَيَتَحَرَّى الصِّدْقِ. يعني you adopt sidq, you become so truthful that you be given the title of as-siddiq. And this was one of the titles of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. It was stolen by someone else, by the way. It was stolen by someone else. But the true person who has the title of as-siddiq is Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi. And of course, you can see in the Holy Quran how it describes one of our Anbiya that he was Siddiqa. Which Nabi was that? إِنَّهُ كَانَ صِدِّيقًا. What was it, Yusuf? Huh? Yeah, you sure? Huh? Are you sure? Hajj Abu Abdullah. Minno. Google it. Ismail, huh? You changed from Nabiullah Yusuf to Ismail. Shouldn't it's a guessing game now? You're gonna mention the whole 124,000 prophets? So, truthfulness. Alaykum salam. Na'iman. How do you need to be truthful? How do you need to be truthful? First of all, truthful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, truthful to God, by making sure that your worshipping of God is done purely for God, not for riyah, not for showing off, not for status, but truthful and genuinely for God. Truthful to yourself. Be honest to yourself. Be truthful to yourself. You can trick someone else, but you can't trick yourself. Yarhamakumullah. You can trick yourself. Sorry. You can trick others, but you can't trick Allah and you can't trick yourself. So be honest to yourself. And third is truthful to others. And this is the biggest mushkila, the biggest problem that we have in our society, unfortunately, where truthfulness is very scarce and very rare. And you as a believer, you need to pick up on this habit in always being truthful in your words, keeping your promise, in your transactions, in your marriage, never saying something false, never saying something deceiving, and never ever cheating. Your father comes home and he says, who broke the window? And he says, Wal Abbas Mu'ani, but it was you. All right, you'll get away with it. Your father's not going to, give you a rajdi. You'll get away with it. But again, and then again, and then again, and then for you it becomes very normal. You have desensitized yourself to lying. And that's why it's very important from a tarbiyah side, from a tarbiyah side, you as a parent, or you as an elder brother, or you as a murabbi, when someone's telling the truth, they shouldn't be punished. But if someone is telling a lie, they should be punished. So subconsciously, this person knows that for sidqi najat, as the hadith says, for sidqi najat, that when you tell the truth, yes, you are going to be held accountable. You are going to be held responsible, right? But at least you are being honest and you're being truthful. But with lying, you're digging a hole for yourself. And then, in most cases, when you lie, you have to cover up that lie with another lie, and then another lie. And it turns into an infinite regress. Especially when you ask someone else to lie for you. Not going to get into this whole issue of scamming and being and conning, for example, other people or the government or this or that. These people, unfortunately, who say, oh yeah, don't worry, it's a kafir government, you're allowed to no, that's not the case. That is not the case at all. In your application form, in your debt transactions, in your dealings, whatever it may be, you have to be truthful and honest, whether it be to a fellow Muslim or a non-Muslim, a pious, righteous mu'min, or even a fajir, fasiq. Being honest and truthful is always necessary for you. Sidq in the Holy Quran, it's been mentioned in the Quran in many verses, but most importantly, we as believers, we have to make sure that we surround ourselves with truthful people. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullah wa kunu ma'al sadiqeen. Of course, here in the literal meaning, as-sadiqeen, yani those who are truthful, and we have to do that. We have to associate with truthful people around us. But of course, the correct meaning is as-sadiqeen. They are Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Wa kunu ma'a as-sadiqeen, yani Ahlul Bayt salamullahi alayhim. Why is it that we call, what do you call a friend in Arabic? Sadiq. Because a Sadiq is someone who is truthful to you. A Sadiq is someone who is truthful to you, not someone who flatters you, not someone who lies for you or takes a bullet for you. No, that's not a Sadiq. Not someone who covers up for you. No, that's not a Sadiq. A Sadiq is someone who is truthful to you. Someone who reminds you and tells you and puts you in your place when needed. And says, by the way, if you conduct yourself, if you are like this and you continue to be like this, هذا فراق بيني وبينك. This is where I part ways with you. I'm no longer able to be your Sadiq because I won't be Sadiq to you. I won't be truthful to you. And that's why Imam Ali alayhi salam says you could spend a whole lifetime looking for a friend and you won't find one. Because that's how rare a Sadiq is. Yes, we've got a lot of acquaintance, people that we know, but do they fall under the category, the true category of Sadiq? Very rarely. Very rarely. That's why it's not good to have too many people that you know. You need to always make sure that you have a very closed circle. And stay away from the famous. You know, the famous people in the, those who are the popular people. Because the popular people, they're after fame and popularity. They're not after genuinity and truthfulness. Especially if you're still in school or in uni or whatnot. This is exactly what Imam Ali refers to when a lot of people like to chase after hamajun ru'a, chase after livestock with no purpose whatsoever. What's the difference between truthfulness and honesty? There's a young kid who lived just him and his mother, and it was now time for him to leave so he can study in another town. This is usually what the custom was and still is in traditional places. When you want to study, you go to another town, another city for your studies. You leave your village and you go to, for example, the main city or whatnot. The mother gave the kid some money and said, the only thing I want from you is to be honest. Just to be honest. That's the only thing. Doesn't matter if it affects you, if it damages you. Your loyalty to me, the way you prove your loyalty to me is in being truthful. So this little kid left and he was in a qafila, in a caravan, traveling. That's how they used to travel, in groups. People didn't travel individually. And there were qutta'u turuq, highway robbers. Highway robbers, they stopped this caravan and they said, everyone out with your money. All these people said, we don't have money. We don't have money. This person had the money that his mother had given him, and they asked him, do you have any money? He said, yes. He said, where is it? He said, in my pocket. Give it to me. He gave it to him. Then they finished off and they were just about to leave. And then this guy that took the money from him, he came back to him and he said, hey, why didn't you reply and answer exactly the same way as everyone else did and not have any money and just say that you don't have any money? They ended up being belted and we had to force it out of them. But why didn't you do the same thing and just say, I don't have any money, because we might have trusted you? And he said, because I will never go against my word. I made a promise that I will never lie, even if it is going to damage me. And then this person started to reflect on this simple statement, this simple lesson given by this young boy, gave the money back and said, if you show your loyalty to your mother by handing over money, how am I supposed to be showing my loyalty to my Creator, who I claim to believe in? And that's why, in any case that you are in, always remember that you will never get anywhere with a lie. You might get out of it for a day or two, but God will slap you so hard you won't recognize, you won't realize. Not through that way, but through many other ways. Okay, you've passed your exam by cheating, by lying, by not being truthful, right? You got the job by lying. You got away from your parents' punishment by lying, but it will creep up onto you. Maybe not in a week, maybe in a month, maybe in a year, maybe in 10 years, but it will come back to you, especially when you become so addicted to lying, you no longer know what's right and what's wrong anymore. And that's how some people are, unfortunately. And that's why honesty is a little bit different to truthfulness, but honesty is making sure that you are always fair in what you do. Again, let's repeat a little bit of the types of sidq. In your words, in your actions, you are truthful. In your decisions, you are truthful. And also in your intention, you are truthful. You say, for example, qurbatan ilallahi ta'ala, which means that you're doing it purely for the sake of God. And you are honest in that. You're truthful. Yani, I'm truthfully doing this only for the sake of God. And of course, what are the benefits of being truthful? People will respect you more. People will trust you more. You will use less energy, because lying makes you think and create scenarios in your mind, so you're using more energy. And by the way, you have to remember that lie that you made, because maybe after 3 or 4 weeks, right, someone's going to ask you that same question, and you need to remember exactly what you said, which was chidhib in the first place. That's why Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, Al-insanu makhbu'un tayya lisanih, that a human being, that you are hidden, can be revealed from your statements that you make. And you just need to talk in order for someone to recognize whether you are a liar or truthful. Because somehow your tongue is going to slip, and you're not going to remember the exact details of the lie that you came up with. So why use that much energy? Use less energy by telling the truth. And truth always attracts truth as well. You will basically become a source of truthfulness and a source of reliance for other people. Is it not better for someone to say, hey, by the way, let's listen to what so-and-so has to say, because he's more accurate, he's more daqiq, he's more precise in the statements that he has. Oh no, don't listen to this guy, because he exaggerates a lot. He adds a lot of baharat, a lot of masala in his stories that he makes. He's a chadhab, he's a liar, he's not accurate. These things are not good, aren't they? And they don't start when you're 30, 40, 50 years of age. These things start from when you are young and fresh. Because the younger you pick up on and strengthen these qualities, the more intense they will be later on in your life. The more intense they will be later on in your life. And that's why even some of the ex-companions of our A'imma alayhum as-salam, ex-companions, yani they deviated, they had inhiraf, they left al-madhhab al-shi'i al-ithna ashari, but they were still truthful in their statements. Yani they never lied. Yes, in their aqidah, their aqidah was fasida and corrupt, right? But their statements, they were always truthful. That's why we have a hadith from Ahlul Bayt in regards to, for example, the Fatahi sect, خُذُوا مَا رَوَوْا وَاتْرُكُوا مَا رَأَوْا. Take what they narrate, but leave what they believe. So truthfulness is a very important quality that we all need to have, especially for us Muslims, especially for us followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And you can ask yourself this question. The more you go towards the Middle East, the more truthful they are, or the more liars there are? Huh? Second or first? Second. So that's a big problem, isn't it? Which is exactly why you need to ask yourself these questions. Finally, let's read some hadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam that speak about as-sidq. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says, taharraw as-sidq. Yani, adopt, pick up on, invest yourself in being truthful. فَإِنْ رَأَيْتُمْ فِيهِ الْهَلَكَ. Even if you find out, or you feel, or you see that it will end up in you being perished, it's rather the opposite. فَإِنَّ فِيهِ النَّجَاةِ. It will give you salvation. You will be saved. Imam Ali, الصدق ينجيك وإن خفته. Sidq will save you even if you are scared of it. And I gave the example of simple situation of you doing something by accident at home or at work or whatnot, and being scared of the consequences, scared of the reaction. Don't be more scared of God's reaction than your boss's reaction or your father's reaction or your mother's reaction or your teacher's reaction or your principal's reaction. الصدق نجاح والكذب فضاح. إلزم الصدق وإن خفت ضره. Again, same thing. الصدق روح الكلام. Truthfulness is the spirit of your words. So keep that spirit alive. Of course we have to. كن صادقا تكن وفيا. Be truthful, you will be loyal. Remember that story. And then Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he says, تعلموا الصدق قبل الحديث. Before you even learn how to talk, before you learn to talk, before you talk, learn to be truthful. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله. اللهم صل على محمد. So as the announcement was made, we're going to